Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Dan John, and this is the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. Each and every week, I sit down here and answer your questions. Interesting, sometime in the comments below, I'll get the question, how do I send a question to the podcast? Well, at the start and end of every podcast, I say the following thing. If you have a question for the podcast, send them to us at podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every question. This is a question and answer podcast. The viewers are really important, and I really appreciate it. I like to answer the questions because you're real people asking real questions, and so I love it. Speaking of, our first question is kind of nice. It'll take us in a kind of a different direction. There's a few of those today. Got a question from Jim. He says this: as a new listener, if I wanted to get better grounded in your philosophy and pick up a primer of methods and techniques across the fitness spectrum, which of your books should I begin with? Oh boy. So there's a lot of discussion about that. Now, the most famous book I have is called Never Let Go. And right here I think I have it in 14 languages. It's in Chinese, it's Korean, it's Portuguese. It's kind of fun. All these different languages. It's been fun through the years having people ask me to, if we can get it published. Never Let Go is a good book. I like it a lot. This piece of art was sent to me by one of our friends, and that is the cover of the book. I think that's kind of cool. It's me dragging a sled with a backpack and a heavy weight. Never Let Go is great, but the books I recommend and there are, of course, my philosophies in there, but there's two. This book here and the follow-ups. This book is Intervention. It's an older book, 10 years, but it really does contain almost everything you need to know if you want to know about the way I coach. The follow-up book too is called Can You Go? So Intervention is kind of this fun thing where I used to ask 10 questions. I've cut the questions back. And very simply, it's how I used to go. And the joke is intervention. I don't know, maybe it's because I watch too much How I Met Your Mother, but I love the concept of the intervention where you sit down with somebody and you ask simple questions. And ideally, as you're asking the questions, they're mentally going, oh, I need to really think this through. Can You Go is the system I use for coaching, for personal trainers and coaches, how to assess the general public. Can You Go is how I assess an athlete. And really, it's that simple. Can you go? And you just kind of shrug your head. Are you ready? Because even if you're sick, you're hurt, you're sunburned, you're tired, you didn't sleep well last night, you had a bad breakfast, if it's the morning of the Nationals, let's go, or the Super Bowl or the World Cup, whatever it is, Six Nations. After that is my book, Now What? In fact, it's kind of fun you say that because I'm using Now What with my college athletes because it basically is the mental side of how I coach, the mental side of competition. So Intervention, Can You Go, and Now What are the three that are kind of more textbooks. A lot of universities use them. They're very user-friendly books. They're easy to read. I certainly like reading research, but sometimes I like to emphasize experience and practical knowledge above anything else in this field. It doesn't make me anti-scientific at all. It's just that I'm trying to really push that a little bit harder. So after those three, I would say this book here, this one is called 40 Years with the Whistle. It basically tells you my background and, of course, all kinds of wonderful other things. All the people had a big impact in my career. There's chapters on Tim Carr, and there's chapters on Dave Turner, Dick Nottmeyer, all the different sports and teams I belong to, and the lessons I've learned along the way. This is my 45th year of coaching. I started coaching in 79, and it's going to be my 59th year of lifting weights. So I'm not saying that my experience is better than anybody else's, but I thought by compiling a book that put these things together, it might be a value to a lot of people. It was a very popular book when it came out, and not many people read it anymore, but I think there's value to it. It'll make sense about why, how I connect the dots. And of course, if you want to talk about easy strength, this book here, the Easy Strength Omni book, and it's available at my site, danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, or easystrengthomnibook.com. But if you go to the bookstore, there's other options. That book talks about this very simple concept. It's real similar to what Hackenschmidt did in 1910. Obviously, Percy Cerruti, the great Australian track and field coach, used it. The concept of easy strength has been around a long time. Pavel explained it to me very clearly at a gathering in 2003. And then I had the best years of my athletic career, combining easy strength with loaded carries. Yeah, easy strength and loaded carries, and I had the best year of my career as a discus thrower at age 47, which is pretty unheard of, really. But that combination worked wonders for me. So those would be the books I'd recommend. You don't have to read them all. If you just want the one-stop shop, Easy Strength Omni book is the most current. It would have the best information. It includes the quadrants. It includes a lot of my other thoughts. Mild, wild, and no variation. It goes into a lot of depth. I was reading a thing on one of the forums that somebody thanked me because I had given them 700 pages of information in 2 books, plus a lot of bonuses, and that's kind of fun. If you just want a whole historical perspective, I would say 40 Years with the Whistle. The cover, and Larry Draper did a great job on the cover. It's hard to see, obviously, here, but right here, that's the picture of me. I'm in my USA gear. That's the throw that's going to win the Nationals. And then I'm at the Pleasanton Highland Games in this picture, and I won that great Highland Games 2 years back to back, and she superimposed them. So it's kind of a cool historical moment there for me. So thank you. Jim, I really appreciate the question. And if you're not a member of danjohnuniversity.com, I would suggest you look into becoming a member, because there's, in the documents area and there's other areas, there's just so much more of my writing that is a lot clearer sometimes than my podcast. And if just for a moment, Jim, if you don't mind, sometimes on a podcast, you're answering specific questions, but there's a lot more layers behind it. And I do my best, and I really do my best, to give all the layers and even nuances of a question sometimes. But sometimes it's better just to read them, I think. So I hope that helps. That was a fun question, and I really, really appreciate it. So to review, Easy Strength Omni book, available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. My other books are also available at On Target Publishing, and I think it's otpbooks.com. There are other places you can buy them, but let's just say that one famous place that has a river really rips off the authors. I'm not going to say names. All right. Thanks so much. Weirdly, we have another question from a Jim. We have 2 Jims today. That's a nice neighborhood to have 2 gyms you could train. He says this, and it's a very relevant question today. Do you think some of the new weight loss drugs will be or should be considered performance-enhancing drugs, especially in sports like weightlifting and wrestlers that are divided by weight class? Okay, so the quick question, Jim. Okay, and just a little background. So, Jim, I do remember it was on CBS Sunday Morning. Now, for those of you who are international, you might not know this, but here in the United States, and as I understand New Zealand, they're the only 2 countries that allow pharmaceuticals to advertise on TV. And you always know, because there's always that great list of side effects that they announce. Here's this wonder drug that could give you nausea, diarrhea, your eyes fall out, your hair drop out. And they have this whole list of things. And it's, kind of, sometimes, have this glowing commercial followed by all the side effects. And it just always makes me. Well, when Ozempic came out, and I'm pretty sure it was Ozempic, because they had the song, when they mentioned that your A1C would drop quickly, I instantly, the second I heard that, I was like, oh, that is a game changer. And then in the original commercial, they said that some people also note, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but say 10 to 20 pounds. And I remember watching that original commercial thinking, anything that lowers A1C is great for so many Americans. And I have to kind of speak specifically about my brothers and sisters in the 50 United States. What I didn't realize is that it would become such a big deal. So when I first heard about it, I thought, this is going to be a game changer. And I will defend Americans in the obesity epidemic. Now, I know a lot of you are young, and a lot of you are still stuck in this idea that, maybe some of you still, only lazy people get fat. But I've had a lot of clients who do a lot of hard work and make no difference, and they have no body composition changes. Here in the States, we subsidize wheat, corn, dairy, soy, and there's a couple others. So wheat, corn, dairy, and soy are extremely cheap. So you can easily get a lot of calories in the United States without a lot of quality of food, without eating a lot of vegetables and fruits. I was amazed. We had years ago when I was just out of college, the federal government, a person in the federal government argued that ketchup was a vegetable. And I remember thinking, wow, this is this is not a good thing. And of course now, if you go to any high school in America and count the vegetables the kids eat, there aren't, if you don't include French fries and potato chips, there's not a lot of vegetables on their plates. So you don't see a lot of fruits and vegetables being eaten, but you do see a lot of the corns, the wheats in those meals. High school cafeteria and any fast food restaurant in this area is going to have cheese on everything. So when it comes to things like Ozempic and that whole family of things, my opinion is very, it's not the strongest opinion I've ever had in my life. I certainly understand why someone would take it. Lowering your A1C it might hold these other scourges back, like diabetes and that whole what we used to call syndrome X, that whole cascade of diseases that come from having your blood sugars through the roof all the time. Your question, Jim, about these being performance enhanced drug in sports like weightlifting and wrestling, that's a little bit different. For those of you who don't know, we don't know the side effects of these drugs yet. They haven't been on the market very long. There's certain drugs seem to come out very quickly. Erectile dysfunction drugs seem to come out very quickly. Fat loss drugs seem to come out very quickly. I kind of wish sometimes you would see that kind of speed of drugs with these really troubling conditions so many people have. And I'm thinking about the neurological diseases and the heart issues and the cancer issues. There's not a lot of long-term research on it. Would I see these as banned? Well, the purist in me says, well, yeah, because it's a drug that'll improve performance. Having said that, if a drug takes between 4 weeks to 12 weeks to really impact the weight loss, every athlete I know knows a much more effective way to lose weight in a couple days. Not very many are healthy, but we know ways. So I think that would be part of the question. Now, if you want to go pure, if I'm a pure purist, yes, it's a drug, it's bad. If I want to be a little bit more logical, I fold my arms and say, I don't know. So I used to have this formula, and it's kind of still funny. If it works immediately, it's illegal. If it works quickly, it's banned. And if there's no impact at all, we sell it at these nutritional stores. That was mean, but it was kind of always true. So I would say I might need a little bit longer to have an informed opinion on this, but for right now, since it seems to take a while, I'm not considering a performance enhancing drug because it takes 12 to 16 weeks. One other thing, because of this question, Jim, I looked up some things about what you should do if you're on these drugs, and the number one thing I would make sure, if you're on these drugs, is that you're getting them, the actual drug itself. And there was this little report about how there are hair salons selling these things. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I trust that. But when you go to an actual site and they talk about what to do, the first thing you pick up is that if you take these drugs, they expect you to increase your protein and increase your water consumption. What a shock. Anybody who's ever done any weight loss, fat loss discussions with clients will tell you those are the first things we go to. Josh Hillis has been punching that button for a long time. The other thing I thought was interesting is that they also recommend lifting weights 3 days a week, doing some explosive exercises like the one I read. I said, and this is why I remember it, it said kettlebell swings, which I thought was, and they also expect you to exercise every day. So if somebody goes on a weight loss drug and while doing it increases their protein and their water, gets more quality sleep, increases their veggies and fruits, starts training, weights in the weight room 3 days a week, exercising daily, doing kettlebell swings, at the end of the 12 weeks, is it the drug or is it logical training? So for right now, I'm a mixed bag on this. I know a lot of people who really struggle with their weight. That's why I push the gut biome thing so much with people I work with. As funny as I'm sitting here, just yesterday, my little group got together and we made sauerkraut, which is kind of this little, we do this every so often. Our lifting group gets together and we make sauerkraut. Well, it's so inexpensive. But I mean, if you're eating your sauerkraut, you're eating your kimchi, you're eating your fermented foods, you have a diverse number of vegetables and fruits you're eating. If you garden, if you play in the dirt, some of this stuff. Drink coffee, which I guess is great for your gut biome. I just read the other day that coffee has more fiber than bananas. I might have misunderstood it, but that's what it said. But I had to think that one through a while. 2 cups of coffee has more fiber than a banana. If it's true, that's amazing. If it's not true, I'm still going to use it anyway because it's amazing. So when you sit back and you look at somebody, work with one person who lived on macaroni and cheese for a long time, this person's gut biome is completely destroyed by these kinds of things, but by this choice in diet. And so if the person slides over to the family of drugs, fine, but at least check the boxes on improving the gut biome, getting the sleep, doing all these things first. For your question and sports, right now I'm going to say I don't think so because it takes so long to get the results. But I would also support if an organization came out against it. I support it, like what I should say here is I would understand it. I know my response is at some levels weak, but it's a good question, and there's just so many layers and levels that I'm still kind of going, yeah. But it's a good, and let's come back to it, Jim. Come back to it in a year or so, and let's talk again. Thank you. Noah asked a good question. I was wondering if you had any weighted carry specific challenge ideas that are similar to the 10,000 swing challenge. Just something to be repeated every year for the physical and mental challenge and reap the benefits of frequent heavy practice with this movement pattern. To keep it similar, the time frame could be a month or so. Any ideas we greatly appreciate. Well, loaded carries should be done every workout and always vary time and always vary weight and always vary distance. And if you can, always vary the different one you're doing. So there's waiter walks, rack walks, suitcase carry, farmer walks, one weight up and one weight down, crosswalks, drag sleds, walk backwards with sleds, carry sandbags, carry rocks, deadlift carry, front rack carry, military press carry. I mean, there's just so many. I do have 2 now. One of them became famous. Some guy named Arnold something or other quoted me in their post a few weeks ago, and it got a life of its own. This workout is called the Sparrow Hawk or the Spar Hawk, and I'll explain this one first and then where it comes from. It's basically you take a single kettlebell and you do 8 goblet squats, and then you do a suitcase carry with one side. You go, you walk, 20 meters, 100 feet, doesn't matter. You stop and use 7 goblet squats. Walk back in the opposite hand, 6, walk back 5, walk back 4, walk back 3, walk back 2, walk back 1, and done. So you do goblet squats, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mixed with suitcase carries. And just finishing the workout is all you need to do. It's one of those workouts, frankly, it doesn't sound like a lot. It really doesn't. But one of the things you'll pick up on is just having load and having to, so when you have load, you're also doing 2 things I call moving planks. And a moving plank is like a goblet squat, overhead squat, suitcase carry. When you're doing the suitcase carry, you are planking the whole time, counterbalancing that load there. When you're doing goblet squats, you're planking so you don't drift over too far, okay, and drop the load. So, if you decide to extend that, that is really a good challenge. Let's get back to the original big challenge I had, and it's called the Eagle, and it was based on the mascot of the school I was teaching at the time. The Eagle's tough, and it is tough. In this case, I would be real strict on the measurement. I said 20 meters at the time. 20 meters for my American friends, 65 to 70 feet. 66, but don't worry about it. Double 24 kilo bells. And this is tough. It's tough. So you start off 8 double kettlebell front squats with a 24s. Drop your hands down. Farmer walk it to the other side, to the 20 meters. Turn around, 8 double kettlebell front squats. Come back, 8 double kettlebell front squats. So the joke, that's not a joke, it's true, but you rest your grip while you're doing those double kettlebell front squats, and you rest your thighs while you're doing the farmer walks. You do 8 rounds of this. So it is 64 double kettlebell front squats. And I don't know how many, 8 times 20? That's 160 meters of front squats. And here's the rule. You can't put the weight down. If you put the load down, the workout is over. I had a high school boy do this with the double 48s. Now, this kid was an engine. But next time you get a chance, gentle listener, double 48s as a teenager, 8 front squats by itself. That's why sometimes when I'm online and, someone's trying to tell me they did so, or they're trying to brag about doing something impressive. Once you've seen a teenage boy do double 48s for 8 front squats, that's impressive. But then to walk and then end up doing 64, that's some impressive work. And there you go. So one thing, Noah, my thought was, if you were to test yourself on the Eagle and the Sparrow Hawk over a month and build up and get just the double 24s, I think that would be a marvelous test for any listener. The Eagle is by itself one of the best tests I've ever done in my life. And most of my athletes who've done it, and a lot have done it, they'll tell you this: I could have stopped at 3 rounds or 4 rounds, but I just wanted to do it. The weird thing about this workout is that it is a mental challenge, like the 10,000 swing challenge. The 10,000 swing challenge, using the 24, 500 swings a day for 20 straight days, or 4 weeks, however it works out. It's just hard. It's not one set of swings is hard, not one day is hard. It's coming back doing 20 500 swing workouts in a compressed period. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can probably pop up right now and go nail that the Eagle and do it properly. All 64 front squats, all the walking, and not to put the load down. But a lot of you will get to rep number 5 in that first round of front squats and say, I need to prepare for this. So I'm just spitballing here, Noah, but that might be a really good challenge for you to step up to. The Eagle. Double kettlebells, 24K each, 8 front squats, 20 meters, farmer walk 8 times. It's tough. And it doesn't get easier. Round 6 is awful. Round 7 and 8 are better because you're almost done. Rounds 5 and 6, when you're over halfway, but you're still getting kind of beaten down. It's a tough workout. No, good question. And let me know what you think. Thank you. Trevor asked a question, and it's interesting, Trevor, thank you, because after we had a question earlier about my books, and Trevor's now asking another book question, and that means a lot. Just curious, the top 3 books you have ever read that had the most influence on your philosophy and thought development. Doesn't have to be fitness related. Let's go in 2 directions here. So behind my copy of the Easy Strength Omni book is, of course, my copy of The Sword and the Stone. T.H. White's The Sword and the Stone. I was not a reader. I was really not a great reader. And when I went to the Orange Library there in South San Francisco when I was in the 8th grade, I picked up 3 books. One of them is right there, 7 Days to Sunday by Elliot Asanoff. And on Wednesday, we meet Kenny Avery, who I read his thing and that's when I became a discus thrower. A book over here by Miles Callum. Who can miss it? It's in there. It was called Bodybuilding and Self-Defense. And then the 3rd book I picked, as I was walking out, the librarian suggested The Sword and the Stone. It's interesting because those are the 3 books that changed my life. I went home with those 3 books and they changed my life. So life-changing books for me. And by the way, I go into great detail on that on my book, okay? Sword and the Stone, T.H. White, Miles Callum's Bodybuilding and Self-Defense. I'm sure there was better books. The Bosco books would have been better. 7 Days to Sunday, Elliot Asanoff. I will keep The Sword and the Stone on my list always when I say my 3 books. But later, when I got to college, I took a deep dive into Beowulf. This is interesting. This is my first published article, Conservation in Detail, a new look at the Beowulf poet. And it's my first published article. This is my what I read at the Rocky Mountain Conference on British Studies. But Beowulf was a massive game changer for me. Now, obviously, I've written in depth about both The Sword and the Stone for years on my Wandering Weights newsletter, which comes out every week. I did this overview of The Sword and the Stone. And I think I wrote 250,000 words on The Sword and the Stone, which is a lot of writing. On Beowulf, I've published one article, and then I've given a lot of lectures on Beowulf. And then the 3rd book in this is The Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, I first read the Epic of Gilgamesh in its entirety when I first got back from the Middle East. I think it was 1987 is when I first read it. And a lot of people say there's all these parallels to the Bible and stuff like that. But I just fell in love with the entire epic. As I take the big view of what we consider Western civilization, you can see it in the Epic of Gilgamesh. So I've given you 2 different lists, the 8th grade list, and then the books I keep coming back to, the Sword and the Stone, Beowulf, and Gilgamesh. And now the 3 books, I think that would be the modern classics, okay? Let's just keep The Sword and the Stone up there. And these next 2, if you know me. And it's funny because you asked me about influence my philosophy and thought development. And you would think that I'd have Spinoza in there. Ooh, I'm a big fan of Spinoza. Wittgenstein in there. I'm a huge fan of Wittgenstein. In fact, a lot of people just say that Wittgenstein just read Spinoza and went, yeah, of course. I don't agree with that. But the 3 books would be The Sword and the Stone. And then the other 2, if you read them, it would make sense. And of course, that's The Godfather. The book is, I just think it's a classic. It is, the book is amazing. Obviously, the movie, The Godfather, I would say the first half of the book is almost paragraph by paragraph review of the book. And then the third is Frank Herbert's Dune. And I really liked the original book. Now, I didn't like the others. And the same is true in The Godfather. And yeah, there are those other books T.H. White wrote about Arthur. I still think the Book of Merlin is the best of the five. You'll find in the Once and Future King, the 4 books, and there's the Book of Merlin is that kind of 5th that shows up in 1975. Those 3 books I consider modern classics: Sword in the Stone, Godfather, and Dune. And since we're now, let's just slide over until the rest of my career. I would say, do I have a good cut? Yeah. So in my world of athletics, the original track and field Omni book, the one I first got when I was a 9th grader, Tommy Kono's book, Weightlifting Olympic Style, and then to pick one, my favorite nutrition book. This sounds weird. Barry Eastbrook's Just Eat, which is a much more modern book. I just love the way he explains diet. So in my world, those would be the 3. Denise's book, Who Can Forget? Surviving the Food Pyramid or something like that, I would put in there. I'm looking over here, and there's a lot of great books over there. Boy, I'm skipping Purposeful Primitive. I'm skipping Stu McGill's work. I'm skipping John Jesse. But those would be the ones that are the easy reads, fun to read books that would really make life easier for all of us. That's a good question, Trevor. I really, really appreciate it. And anytime somebody asks me to review books or movies or anything, that's always good. Keeps my head above water here a little bit. All right, let's move on. Good question. Mike says this: I want to add rack pulls, 1 working set only, to my strength cluster of bench press, back squat, weighted pull-ups, and loaded carries. I like it. I have neglected any form of deadlifting due to my age, 55, but feel it is an area that needs balancing out in terms of my overall strength. In the past, as a hinge movement, I've done 100 kettlebell swings as a finisher after my strength work. And I honestly think that anytime you finish a workout with swings, it's a good idea. My question is, can you run both of these exercises in the same work, as whilst they are both hinge movements, they have a different purpose, or is it best to leave the swings for my conditioning days? Using swings as a finisher. I love it. Mike, this will give you good news. See this book here, Easy Strength Omni book? The author, who's a genius, okay, it's me. I usually say something along these lines. My favorite, there's a couple here, so just stick with me. For simplicity's sake, my favorite easy strength combination, I call the 3 verticals. That would be a vertical press, a vertical pull, a deadlift family. There's your rack pull, and then ab wheel, and then something else. On the something else, I usually suggest suitcase carries or swings. Now, if you're doing something like easy strength for fat loss, if you do military press, 2 sets of 5, a pull-up, a pull variation, 2 sets of 5, your rack pulls, 2 sets of 5, ab wheel, and then did, you say 100 swings. So usually I recommend 5 sets of 15, that's 75, but 5 sets of 20 is fine too. Get that heart pumping out and then get that walk in. I think it's an ideal thing. Mike, sadly, this answer is going to be very short. I think swings to finish a workout is one of the smartest things you can do, especially if you go for a walk or something like that after, to give yourself a chance to kind of recalibrate the body a little bit. My friend Tim Anderson talks about this a lot in his workshops, where this gait pattern just kind of does marvelous things for the mind. Interesting, Stu McGill's book, The Gift of Injury, goes through basically the same thing, the value of walking to deal with back injuries. So if you have back problems, if you have obesity problems, the answer is walking. If you're riding, you get stuck, St. Augustine taught us, it is solved by walking. So I love the swings. but I also like the walks after. I think I answered your question. By the way, Mike, I'm a huge fan of rack pulls. The barbell is just simply not designed for a lot of us. It's too low on the ground. And I'm a big fan of the rack pull. So great question. Thank you. Connor asks a question. This is being a different direction completely. He's looking to start small groups or one-to-one coaching using the Hardstyle method. Okay. I have all your books. Well, thank you, Connor. And come by and I'll sign them all for you. I generally read your books from the point of view of enhancing my own training. Now I'm going to need to revisit how I can apply them as a coach. In terms of a starting for coaching, where is the best place to begin? Intervention, Hardstyle kettlebell, coyote point, whatever. I had thought the Hardstyle Kettlebell Challenge, that's a book I wrote for Dragon Door, first 20 workouts from Hardstyle Kettlebell would be great. However, I imagine the clients will have no background in kettlebells. So, you know, you're in that interesting transition. So remember, when it comes to coaching, so I like the fact that you're going to use the Hardstyle methods. I like the fact that you have the background. You're deciding about whether or not to use the coyote point approach or whatever. You have to do this when now with one-on-one, your job is going to be, if it's one-on-one coaching, personal training, sometimes that can be a little easier. I actually think sometimes it's actually a little harder, but that's my own opinion. I think, this is my opinion from coaching groups for years, I think coaching groups is far easier than coaching one person at a time. Today at practice, I had 7 throwers with me at practice, and it was so much easier for me because just kind of like they say about kittens, you know, 1 kitten is this much work, 2 kittens is the exact same amount. When you have throwers, 7 throwers is the same amount of work as 1. But what's nice is when I correct this person on this, I'm also correcting the rest of the group also. When you talk about those Hardstyle, the 20 early workouts I give you, I spent a lot of time thinking and a lot of experimenting, thinking on those. But there is a need for an orientation. So that is the thing I think you're missing from your question. There's 2 things missing from your question. So the first was the orientation. Every client has to have this, everybody in a group has to have this overview of what we're doing. Well, when I got to the Coyote Point Kettlebell, we would get new people literally every week. And after a while, this became our orientation. I'm Dan, I'm 67, you know, and I live in Murray, and I'm here to teach you kettlebells. And then everybody just learned by doing. Everyone go around the circle and everyone tell who they were, what their experience levels were. If we had a very low amount of experience, the workout changed to a more basic, more fundamental, more teaching. If everybody there was getting ready for a certification or was an experienced kettlebeller, then we would do kind of a much more graduated program. Dan Martin, of course, came up with the names for a lot. It's like the humane burpee. Thank you, Dan. The only person we ever had any negative issues with, interesting enough, was somebody who was a certified kettlebell person and was just a poor training partner. It was that whole fold your arms, I already know this stuff. And I got to tell you, when you're a group of 12, 15 people who all do kettlebells, and you can't learn anything from anyone in an hour and a half, and I'm not sure you're paying attention. It's one thing I like about Pavel Satsulin. You know, when he's in a group, he constantly takes notes. I picked that up from him, and you'll notice when you read anything I do, the first thing you'll notice on all the pages, I just pulled out 2 random things here, and you'll notice I write notes on my writing. When I'm at a workshop, I'm taking notes, and I thank you, Pavel, for that. So the first thing is this kind of orientation. In groups, you're going to have to do a little orientation every day, but that's okay, because if you believe, like I do, that the warm-up is the workout, by putting all the orientation things in kind of a warm-up function, it's going to be a lot easier and funner. The second thing you don't have here is assessment. You're going to have to assess. Now, when I do free workshops, I really don't assess. Yeah, I ask questions. Anyone got an injury? Don't get hurt. The joke was used to be, I got 2 rules. Rule number 1 is don't get hurt. Rule number 2, don't get hurt. Ha 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 ha. But you're going to have to do some kind of assessment. Personally, I like mine, which shouldn't shock you. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment from my book, Can You Go? It's available at On Target Publishing, otpbooks.com, and I like it. It's simple. It takes only a few minutes, and you get a real good vision of what the person can or cannot do. If you decide to go, Connor, on these small groups and do it, that 20 suggested workout thing from the book that I wrote, Hardstyle Kettlebell Challenge, available at Dragon Door and that place with the river from South America. It's a good book. What you can do with that is go through those 20 workouts and then pull out the orientation from them. And so when you start, let's say you start in workout 3, I don't even know what's on it, but you're going to do a few of the Turkish get-up drills. Well, that's the time to teach those Turkish get-up drills. We're going to do goblet squats today. Here's what a goblet squat is. Da-da-da-da. Here's what this is. Okay, practice this. We're going to do this exercise and that exercise. So the orientation, the warm-up, is geared to just prepare them for the workout itself. And then you probably wouldn't need finishers on a workout like this, but that's how I would do it. Orientation and some level of assessment are the 2 things you're going to have to start thinking about also. All right? Connor, good question. Thank you. We have a question from Shane, and it's a question I get a lot, and I came up with a few answers for you, and we're going to share a little video for you in a minute. I really like the structure of your even easier strength program, especially the fact that there are occasional days to push yourself. It seems clear how to program the 5-3-2, set of 5, set of 3, set of 2, or the 6 singles days for movements like the press and deadlift. Just add weight. Yeah, it's pretty simple, yeah. What I can't figure out is how to program the pull for those harder days. If I could bang out 10 strict tactical pull-ups, I would program those days by adding weight, which is what I usually recommend. But I'm not a natural at pull-uppers, which is the same for me. I stall out around 90 degrees and don't come close to getting my chest to the bar. I'm currently doing dead hangs on the 2x5 days. Good. If I were in a gym with an assisted pull-up machine, I could vary the resistance, but I'm at home with kettlebells and a pull-up bar. How would you program the 5-3-2 and 6x1 days for even easier strength for the pulling motion in my situation? So there's a couple of ideas. For those of you who are home trainers, those big, heavy Dynamax bands are great for helping with your pull-up. You string one over the top of the bar and then you put your foot in it. And if you're using a blue band, even if you're a big guy, it'll still shoot you up. The downside of that is, there is some wear and tear, and you really do have to figure out a way to get your foot in that band because it's high and you have to really bend and get it in there. But what I'm going to show you here in this video is something I've been doing a long time. It's called the jump pull-up. And basically you put your hands in the bar and you let your legs pop you up and then you come down slow. I do a overhand grip and I do a neutral grip on that, but you could also do a chin up grip on this. I would be a little careful at first because there's a chance you can smash your face. Just be a little wise. But one of the things I recommend on this, so you jump up and then there's 2 ways to make it harder. First, always try to pry yourself at the top. Hold yourself with your chin over. Now, you added a little leg, you jumped up, like 1,001, 1,002, up to 5, up to 10, great. And then lower yourself down. If that by itself is too hard, like on the 6, as you go up on the 6 harder day, maybe set 1 is you jump up, 1, 2, come down under control. Set 2, jump up, 1, 2, 3, come down under control. Set 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just work your way up. If you can do a pull-up in there, throw that pull-up at a good spot for you. Otherwise, just keep trying to extend the time that you have your chin over there and come down, fight on the way down. I am going to tell you something, gentle listener. You get really sore doing this because you're doing those isometric holds over the bar, and you can get very sore and very whipped doing these. So just kind of try it easy one time. Maybe the first time you do it, hold for 1 second. The sixth set would be 6 seconds, okay? And then kind of make sure, kind of do a little check-in a day or so later and see how you're doing. But if you don't have a lot of resources, this is a very, very inexpensive way to kind of improve things. Thank you. It's a good question. It comes up all the time, which is one of the reasons in my upcoming hypertrophy book, I get rid of pull-ups, because they're just so hard for so many people to program in. Thank you, and I hope that helped. Shane, that was a solid question. Got a question here from Jeff. He's 64 years old, young man, 5'10", 193 pounds with body fat of 15%. That's solid work there. Since COVID, I've worked out in my garage with kettlebells, a dip station, and a pull-up bar. And that actually ties into what I usually recommend people get. 3 days a week plus walking seems to be my sweet spot when it comes to recovery. My program is heavily weighted to clean and press and snatches, which I think are the two best. I mean, if you're just going to pick 2 kettlebell exercises, the clean and press and the snatch are pretty good. I'm considering going back to martial arts training 1 day per week. Here's the question. The martial arts class requires I join the gym in which it operates, giving me access to barbells and other equipment I don't have at home. If I replace one garage day with a gym day, what lifts would you suggest I focus on? Well, to me, it just leaps off the page because to me, would be just the power lifts. I mean, I like the fact that you're doing clean and press and snatch with the kettlebells. Those other 2 days, you could do something as simple as, squat, back squat, bench press, and deadlift. It's only 1 day a week. I would suggest you alternate your reps kind of intelligently, okay? So maybe the first week, 5 sets of 3, 5 sets of 3. Next week, go a little heavier with 3 sets of 5. Week 3, the long, arduous, classic Reg Park, 5 sets of 5. And on week 4, kind of a deloading bodybuilding workout of 3 sets of 8. You'll notice that I keep in that workout, you'll see that we keep the reps in that 15 range the first couple of weeks, in that 25-ish range the next 2 weeks. But to me, if you're only use barbells once a week, and I'm stealing this from my friend Marty Gallagher, the back squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. The nice thing is those other 2 days a week with the kettlebell clean and press and the kettlebell snatches, you're going to have a pretty good program here. After you do those, if you still have any energy left, throw yourself in some strict bar curls. Gosh, there's so many other variations, but just find anywhere from 3 to 5 exercises. So for sure, the squat, the bench, the deadlift, maybe the curl, maybe some other bodybuilding exercise you miss, tricep extensions or whatever they are, and have some fun. Experiment around with a few other ideas. I kind of played around years ago with the heels together deadlift, and then snatch grip deadlift. I did the hack, the hack deadlift, the hack squat, hands behind the back. There's just so many things you can play around with. The power lifts for sure. Pretty sure I want you to do the curls, and then just find some other exercises you want to explore. I think it's going to do marvels for you. And keep on the good work here. And I really like the fact, and I hope all the other listeners, with some kettlebells, and I have that combination dip rack, chin up, push up rack. I got it for $149. Takes a while to put together. if you're an idiot like me. But you can get a lot of work done. If for the gentleman listening, 2 20-kilo bells and that pull-up rack, you know, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't say all your dreams come true, but a lot of your dreams will come true. Fun question, Jeff, and thank you. We have a question from Case, and I'm not sure if I understand everything about this question, but we'll do our best to answer it. About a week ago, I started doing heavy hands and 100 swings with the 48-kilo kettlebell every morning. So he's into it for a week, and 100 swings with the 48 is, 10 sets of 10 on that is a good load. Most days I do heavy hands for 30 minutes, and on days when I can afford to do it, for an hour. When coupled with swings, which just take a little over 10 minutes, yeah, that would make sense. I feel like I start my days off gassed and ready to go. Gassed up and ready to go. And 4 days a week, I do another workout in the evening, which is 99% body weight training, switching between upper and lower body. I'm 28 years old, and this was the line that kind of got me. 305 pounds, so for my European listeners, 140 kilos, as of the time I'm writing this. And for most of my trained life, I've been doing power building style workouts with a sloppy diet. Back to the heavy hands. I've been using 5-pound dumbbells, and they are getting pretty easy. What is the heaviest dumbbell you would recommend for heavy hands? So I'm going to show you a video of me using 25s right now. And one of the things you'll notice that when I'm doing the 25s, my level isn't very high. As I walk, I do try to increase my level. When you read Leonard Schwartz's heavy hand material, one of the first things you pick up is that it's not the weight in the hands that's important, it's the range. And this is, of course, 3 is when you go, I don't know what you call it, I guess, to the wait or walk position. Sometimes Mike Brown and I, well, we don't do it anymore because it's hard, but we would do level 3 for like a couple of blocks. And I got to tell you, going from just barely moving your hands like, you see on TV when people are pretending to do heavy hands, to going to level 2 and then going to level 3, there is a massive, massive leap, for me anyway, in my breathing and my heart rate. I can do 25s, I just can't do them very far. My personal record with the 10s is doing them at a high hands is just half a mile, 800 meters. So it is hard. Even 10s are hard to go far with. With the 25s, when I was first doing heavy hands, I had 2 15s, and I could go at night during the quiet time of night. If you ever have kids, so we had 2 young kids, a cat and a dog. Sometimes things would kind of quiet down around 8 o'clock, and I would try to go out and get my workout in 8 o'clock at night after a long day. It's tough. And I would try to take the 15s and go as far as I can. Very often they just turned into farmer walks. They weren't true heavy hands. So Case, the thing is this. If you're doing them farmer walk style, you're really not doing heavy hands. If all you're doing is, this kind of thing, you're not really doing heavy hands. If on each stride you find yourself pumping, then you're doing heavy hands. As you can see in the video, with 25s, it's an effort. I work hard with those 25s. We do have this weird workout. We do it usually during if we're not sure what's going to happen, the weather. Here in Utah, if you go for a walk and it's okay, you could come back in a storm and just get soaked. I'll take the 25s and with the lighter weights, I can just put them in my, that little, on a hoodie, that little pocket you have here. I can put the light weights in there and stay. Take the 25 until I just can't go. I put them down. I take the 3s out and I coast for a while. And as I come around on this loop, I have a 400-meter loop around my house. When I come up to the 25s, I put those light 3s or 2s back in my pocket, pick up those 25s and grind out. And ideally over the loops, about 8 to 12 loops, I try to get those 25s back to my house. I never really asked my neighbors if it's okay that I leave 25-pound weights in front of their house. But I kind of think in this neighborhood, everybody knows who those are. It's a good question, and I hope you sent me the details correctly. You did mention sloppy diet. Let's take care of this at your age. 28, you can't afford a sloppy diet too much longer, okay? Thank you. Well, Michael asked a question, and I think this is true for a lot of people. Have you noticed that the deadlift is less sensitive to body weight and age changes than the bench press? Then he says overhead press and even squat. Bench press and overhead press seem to be my strongest lifts. Twice in my life, I had double body weight bench press raw, drug-free. Good. But as I get older and lighter in weight, my pressing strength and squatting strength has gone down dramatically. Not so with my deadlift. I can still trap bar deadlift over 2.5 times body weight, and it has even improved for reps despite getting older. Have you noticed this yourself and other athletes? And if so, why could this be happening? Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly noticed it. You know, I've said in other telecasts that I'm a push hinger. So even with myself, though, if I go to Vermont for 2 months and only press a 20 kilo bell, you know, doing the armor building complexes or whatever, when I get back after the 2 months and go to press, my press drops off. Even though I'm pressing 3 days a week, my press drops off. If I don't squat for a couple of weeks, my squat drops off completely. I talk about this in Easy Strength Omnibook quite a bit, but my thought is that the squat and the press family involve a lot of joints moving around a lot of ranges. Now, it's true, the deadlift does too, but for some reason, because maybe the way the deadlift is orchestrated, you know, that crane style, it doesn't seem to have the issues of dropping off that the squat and the press do, the whole press family. Szymanski famously said, you know, someone said, you know, I want to improve my press. What do you do? And he said, press. Later, the guy said, I want to improve my squat. What do I do? Squat. It's the most true thing I've noticed in my coaching career is that if you want to increase your squat, you got to squat. Want to increase your press, you got to press. My best progress on pressing, now not my best ever, but since then, what keeps my press up is when I press 3 to 5 times a week. And it doesn't have to be 5 heavy sessions, more of an easy strength. But pressers press and squatters squat. Weirdly, the deadlift, you don't even have to train. I don't have to train the deadlift for, literally in some cases years, and I still have a big deadlift. I was getting ready to do a workshop years ago, and I was in a jacket, and I was in a suit, and I went past this one little, they got those booths with the weights, and the challenge was they had 190 pounds on the bar, and if you deadlifted 190, you would get your name on this list to win this thing. I walked by, saw it, walked over with a suit on, cranked up 418, put it down, and the guy said, well, you can't be in the thing because you're a speaker. And I thought, hey, man, that's cheap. My deadlift stays up without deadlifting. I've told the story multiple times on this podcast that, I never trained the deadlift, but I was always the strongest deadlifter because I Olympic lifted. Well, I later realized that it wasn't just the Olympic lifting. I was kind of born to deadlift. Now, I know a lot of people deadlift a lot more than me, but I don't know if they deadlifted more than me with no training. It's one of those things. But with squatting and pressing, we're talking maybe not days, but certainly weeks. If I skip squatting and pressing for 2 weeks, I wouldn't say I have to start right at the bottom, but there is quite a bit of a journey back up. I would say most people are that way, in my experience. I'm sure there's others that, there are people who are born to squat, and you'll see it like in the Olympic lifting, especially Olympic lifting. They're just better. Of course, when you watch the NBA, you'll notice that, you know, these 7-foot guys are pretty good about getting rebounds, you know. They're just born different, you know. So yeah, I think you're on a very normal path here. Now comes the question, Michael. I mean, do you want to keep pursuing that big press, that big squat? If so, you've got to do programs that you are pressing and squatting 2 to 3 days a week, I would say at the minimum. There's nothing wrong with that. There are programs out there. Easy Strength is what that's all about. Good question, and I almost am sure that most of our listeners are probably going, yeah, that's the same with me. Great question, Michael. Thank you so much. I can't believe it, but that's all the questions for today. Again, if you have questions, send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I sit here each and every week looking forward to answering your questions. And until next time, let's all keep lifting and learning. Thank you.